Dr. Haran was kidnapped from her home the morning of October 7th, along with her daughter, two of her grandchildren, her sister-in-law, and a niece. And I am extraordinarily grateful for her courage in speaking out today. Dr. Haran, I now give you the floor.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador, distinguished representative. Thank you for inviting me here today to share my story. My name is Shoshan Haran, and I'm the founder and president of Fair Planet, an NGO that enables millions of people in Africa to exit the cycle of hunger and poverty. I came here today to testify on the unimaginable, cruel, and deadly attack on me, my family, and on my kibbutz on October 7th. That day was Sukkot, holiday in Israel, when we celebrate being freed from slavery and having our own homeland in Israel. At 6:30 a.m., sirens woke us up. We thought it's another missiles attack. So when we thought it was over and exited the safe room, I started preparing hot chocolate for my grandkids, Yahel, 3 years old, and Nave, 8 years old. Suddenly, we got a WhatsApp warning. Armed terrorists penetrated the kibbutz. Lock yourselves in the safe room. We ran to the safe room. We heard gunshots and grenades. Shouts in Arabic were getting closer and closer to our home. My husband, Avshalom, and my son-in-law, Tal Shoham, protected the safe room metal door, and the rest of us crawled under the bed, trying to call for help and praying. The terrorists broke into our house and shot steel-penetrating bullets through the safe room door. One of the bullets passed right above my head. We were helpless, and the children were terrified. Nave asked if now we are all going to die. Yahel was frozen. Failing to break in through the door, they brought a bulldozer and crashed the safe room window. Once a crack was formed, we had 3 seconds to decide, surrender or die. The terrorists grabbed us through the window, yelling and shouting, "Jihad, jihad." My brave daughter grabbed her 2 little kids back from the terrorists' hands. They handcuffed me and pushed us all into their car, still in our pajamas, and we were taken barefoot as hostages to Gaza. You cannot even start to imagine what it means to be a hostage held by terrorists. Total dependency for every human need, 24/7 control of every move and action. We had to hide and whisper with 2 little kids, Yahel and Nave, knowing that our lives and fates are totally in their hands, feeling that constant agonizing tension and stress of being in immediate danger constantly. I am a passionate reader. I read many books written by Holocaust survivors and used their wisdom to help us survive through these horrifying days. 45 days into the horror, Yahel, 3 years old, told us that the terrorists found us in the safe room because they heard her crying under the bed. Of course, we told her that she's completely wrong. They broke into each and every house in our neighborhood, and they saw our open beds, and the hot chocolate cups in the kitchen were still warm. Only after 50 days, when we were finally released, I learned the horrible and devastating fate of my family. On October 7th, Hamas terrorists murdered my husband, Avshalom. They murdered my younger sister, Lilach, my best friend, and her handicapped husband, together with his caregiver. My house and all my belongings were totally burnt. Nothing survived the attack. Hamas murdered 101 civilians only in my kibbutz, babies, children, women, and men. From my small community, 31 people were kidnapped from a total of 251 civilians in our regions. My son-in-law, Tal Shoham, and 132 other hostages are still held in captivity in Gaza. It's already 223 days. This number includes one baby, one toddler, women, and elderly. 3 weeks after we were released, Yahel only whispered, too afraid to make a noise. She hid from everyone, too afraid to go outside. She wet the bed and had nightmares, too afraid she may be captured again. Their grandfather, my husband, was murdered. Their dad is still in captivity, and they miss and worry about him greatly. Yahel and Naveh have experienced a lifetime of trauma, all before the age of 9, and need all the support they can get. Adi, their mother, and my daughter, is psychologically a mess. The thought of her husband, Tal, in captivity is terrifying, but she must be strong for her family. We know firsthand the risk involved in being hostage held by Hamas in Gaza. It is extremely frustrating, and yet she needs to hold her family together. I'm 68, and I experience worrying health issues that I never experienced before captivity. We are all walking on air and cannot heal ourselves until he rejoins our family. Only then we will be able to start coping with the long-term trauma. I come before you today, distinguished delegates, to ensure the safe release of Tal and all the other hostages, to ensure that both the released and the current hostages receive the necessary support from the international community, to ensure that this never happens again. We cannot allow the normalization of this unprecedented form of terrorism, mass hostage-taking of unarmed civilians, women, children, elderly. What you see as our problem today might become a worldwide problem to each and every country in the near future. Our hostages are victims of an enforced disappearance, which the UN General Assembly stated in 2006 is a crime against humanity. No one knows better than me the tremendous risk of being a hostage. No one knows better than me the psychological distress caused by captivity. No one knows better than me that every minute counts. I call upon the UN Security Council to do everything in its power to prevent hostage-taking from happening ever again. The UN Security Council should do everything in its power for the immediate and unconditional release of all the hostages. Bring them home now. My daughter and my little grandkids need their father, Tal Shoham, back home now. And as a final note, if you care about the humanitarian situation in Gaza, like me, who dealt with humanitarian aid in all my professional life, use all the leverages and political power and do everything you can do to bring all the hostages back home as soon as possible. Only this will enable the rehabilitation of the people in Gaza. Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you, Dr. Haran, for your bravery and for your willingness to share what I know has to have been a horrifically difficult time for you. It is very meaningful for us to have heard directly from you, and I'm really grateful to you for sharing your story.